I think this next video, which I watched a bit of and I haven't watched it all of yet, but this next video, I think this is a girl becoming a guy, judging by the mustache, and because usually the guys who are becoming girls don't want the mustache, or maybe they do. I don't know. I'm confused. It's something, but I think this was the natural culmination of the left wing progressivism. And you tell me if I'm wrong, because this is a transgender person who is discovering the Quran. Because the leftist push is, of course, keep going until you find the most marginalized person, and right now we're seeing that you know Israel's somehow the most marginalized group, while Palestine is also simultaneously the most marginalized group, depending on which side you're on. And then I think the general push to the very end here is the idea that a Muslim immigrant would be one of the most marginalized groups. So you have that in Minnesota, where like the Democrats and Islam are neck and neck for seeing who's the most oppressed or whatever. But I think when you get to this logical endpoint of left wing communism and radical religious fanaticism, you get to the point where these two these two ideas intersect, and it's very interesting to see how one of these people interprets this. And let's take a look.
The Quran, and I am so excited about it. People thought when I first asked that I just wanted to read it out of curiosity, but I want to read it to study it. I started following somebody on social media that teaches the Quran and hosts a Quran book club for Muslims and non-Muslims, so I'm really excited to start going to that. She was describing the chapter of the bee, and that just blew my mind. Like, the way that she describes things, the way that the Quran describes things actually makes sense to me. And also, did you know that Allah is beyond gender? Did you know that actually scholars believe that there are two Qurans, the Quran of nature and the Quran, the actual book? And did you know that each chapter is named after a natural phenomenon? I don't know. This whole book is just blowing my mind, and I am so excited. I got sticky notes so that I could mark out things that I was drawn to, and I'm not even through the first chapter, and I already have a bunch of sticky notes. I'm definitely gonna have to buy more tabs. I'm honestly having a whole revolution with myself, where the way that I describe the universe and the things that I believe in are actually described in the Quran of believing in Allah. And I've never thought that I believed in God before, and now I'm really having a revolution of self of, I think I actually believe in God. If you've been curious, I really recommend it. There are a lot of people who are converting. There's a lot of people who are reading it.
Many.
I'm not saying I'm going to convert. I'm not saying that I wouldn't. And I don't know. I know that this is exactly what I need right now. I just wanted to say thank you and just point out how excited I am. Just started reading the Quran.
So if this was like a satirical joke, I'd be saying well done. First of all, who does a book review a chapter in? That's really strange. Well, where do you think this goes? Do you think this person gets a few more chapters in and sees what it's about? Or like, do you think that this becomes one of these things where they start, getting to be like, this is fine. We'll excuse all the stuff in Islam and somehow pervert it to be pro-trans or something?
Yeah, I think people will interpret it the way that they want to interpret it, just like most, I feel like most people do that. They just they'll find some vague thing in the Quran and then they'll twist it like, oh, that he supported trans people, and they'll run with that and call you a bigot if you say otherwise.
This has already come to a head up here when they were doing, because there's a lot of Muslims here now, and they protested against the transing of kids, let's call it, in the schools. One particular school district was saying, we're not going to give any pronouns at all anymore. Every kid is going to be a they, just to be safe. And surprise, surprise, the Muslim community, the Muslim parents and families didn't like that. This has happened in England, and this is where I really think the crossroads hit ahead between leftism and mass migration. Whereas when you bring in people from a worldview that is probably the most homophobic religion, if you can call it a fear of it, whatever, you'll find several countries where being gay is illegal. The harsher ones, throwing off of roofs, public executions. The less harsh ones, a public caning or lashing, for example, just like you would do for an adulterer. Maybe not quite a stoning for an adulterer or a familial sacrifice. What do they call it? An honor killing. That's the word I was looking for. But eventually, these two ideas, the enemy of my enemy situation, eventually these two collide, and I'm very, very certain that the idea of Islam will win over the, guy with a mustache who talks like a girl with a septum piercing. I'm fairly certain 99.9 times out of 100 run through a computer program that Islam wins that one, and everybody on the other side starts learning, maybe I was being a little bit too tolerant. It's like, what are they willing to be tolerant for? And it's anybody they deem to be lesser than them. That's really what leftism is anyone who I think is lesser than me, that's fine. We need to help them. They can't really help themselves. The old video where people at Berkeley say that black people don't know how to use the internet or get a driver's license. Any person that a hardcore left wing
But that's
progressive,
not, when they say that, that's not racist at all. That's just
exactly
loving.
right.
But when you say the truth, then it's racist. It's just
They want to help anyone they deem to be lesser than them, and then they will be tolerant of anything like that, just like they are tolerant of these poor Muslim, in their words, these poor Muslim immigrants who are just being, I guess, oppressed, until it gets to the point where they disagree with them. And it's going to have some sort of, strict disagreement, because we see the Gays for Palestine thing popping up at these new protests. And that's just, I guess I would say pick up a book where this person's a chapter in and they haven't got to the rape and pillage parts of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To me, it's just, people have to pick a side. Like they immediately up, which side is the more like noble side to support. But it's just, to me, it's just with any war or any, any situation, there's good and bad really on both sides.
Turn it up, Jordan.